So, we've been friends for how long?
3 years.
And how did that start?
Um,
Do you remember?
yeah, so
Okay.
we were basically just, like, connecting, with Bible studies, and
hmm
then we went on walks and jogs, and we would meet up.
Was that before I sold matcha, or was it the matcha that started it?
I
Do you
think it
remember?
was well, I know we talked a little bit,
Yeah.
before the matcha, like, at, some of the like the food banks at
Okay.
Passion
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
couple of times, but I think it was like really when you started selling the matcha and the coffee, and
Yeah.
I was
Because you
like
were coming all the time.
all the time because we lived near each other
Yep.
and I was walking over there and yeah. So
So it's been about 3 years, or we're celebrating 3 years
yeah,
this
3
summer.
years this summer.
Um, and I think through that, I think what's neat is one, we didn't even know that we lived near each other, and then we found that out. But I think that
Yes.
was totally the Lord, because, like you said, we started going on walks. And I think for me, I remember telling John, like, babe, I think I need to be intentional with Amanda, and I'm gonna go on walks. And he's like, okay. But I think as I'm looking back, because now you're here on this podcast, I think the Lord already had like a plan for us to be friends.
Yeah.
And through that, I've been able to see it's only been 3 years. So, like, just you grow in your faith, which you were already growing, but I get to see the other side of it.
Yeah.
And so we were having lunch yesterday talking about what are we going to talk about today. And you were sharing a little bit about your journey. And so your daughter, your oldest, you have two,
Yes, too.
just turned 18.
Yes. So
So, how do
she
you feel?
yeah. So, first of all, they're both a blessing to me. Her turning 18, I was just like thinking like, "Oh my God, like, Lord, we're here." I remember, I was so young when my husband and I had her and like we sat there last week and my husband and I are like, "Okay, remember when she was born? She was just 5 pounds and 12 ounces,
Wow.
like little, and we were just so nervous. We were young parents. We were so young.
Can you define young? Like, how young were you?
Yeah. So I was actually 16 when I had her,
Wow.
and my husband was 18.
So, did you find out you were pregnant at 16 or at 15?
I was like 15 and a half.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was 15 when I found I was pregnant and my husband was 17 and yeah, like, we were so young, and
Let's take it back a little bit
yeah,
further.
okay.
Okay. So, did you already know Jesus by this point, by 15 and a half?
So I did,
Okay.
yeah, so about, so I grew up, practicing, the Catholic, I did my Holy
I
Communion
didn't know
and yeah.
that.
Yeah, so
Like, I didn't know that.
I did, and really when I was, like, 13 is, when I started going, to a smaller church in Eloy, and,
Shout out to Eloy.
yes. My grandmother and, a lot of my family, and so, yeah, that's when I really, dove into, the Word and started getting involved, in my Christianity and my faith, but, you know, it was definitely a journey,
When did
and,
you meet your husband?
so I was 14.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you were like a year kind of into your faith.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, and we actually met at it's like a softball field,
Okay.
like, in the summer there in Eloy,
Okay.
and so that's how we met, and so we were just so young,
hmm
but I did know the Lord, but I, not how I do now,
Right. Right.
and yeah.
So, okay. So, let's go back a little bit to the story. So, you guys were dating. You were already going to church. You were discovering your faith.
Yes.
And how did you find out you were pregnant? Because you just told me this, and I thought it was funny because I was like, wow, what a way to find out.
Yes, okay, so I was just, like, sick, like, in the evenings, and I was, like, freaking out, like, "Why am I sick?" I thought
Did you have any idea?
I didn't, no. No, like no, like, I was just like, "Why am I sick?" I thought maybe, like, okay, appendix or something was going on, and so my mom took me to the urgent care. And basically, physician comes in and says, "Yeah, I think it was like, I don't know, strep is negative or flu or something,
Yeah.
and pregnancy test is positive." And I looked at my mom briefly and I just started crying.
Like, what
And
okay, I don't know if you remember anything, but do you remember any thoughts going through your mind in that moment?
yes, I was scared, not, of like my parents or anything. It was more like, oh my gosh, like this is happening. Like I'm so young, like what am I going to do? What are people going to say? Like and I just remember just crying so much because I was just like I felt like I let a lot of people down
Mm,
and like myself, I feel like at a young age, like I was always like I always knew, okay, like this is how I would want my life to be. I felt like I had a good head on my shoulders. Very involved like in school, student council, grades were always good. I was involved in sports. Like I just, I felt like I was a good kid,
which you were.
and I was, yeah,
Yeah,
but I was just like, oh my gosh, like this can't be real right now.
yeah.
And
Did pregnancy cross your mind, while while you and your husband were together at that time, like, having sex and stuff? Was that something that you guys were like, "Oh, this, like, won't happen to us," or was it more like, "It could happen to us," or what was that thought
so,
process?
yeah, like there's like a couple times when it was like, okay, like we should like this shouldn't like we shouldn't be doing this or like these are consequences. But we also weren't really like and at least for myself, like educated
Yeah,
enough. I felt like I didn't really have like those conversations, deep
yeah,
conversations with anyone. And we were young and when you're young you think
yeah,
and we were in love and we just yeah, like, I mean, I did have like, I will be honest, because I was, like, in growing, like, my faith, I would have, like, some conviction,
yeah.
at a very young age, and I remember, like, praying to God, like, "Okay, like, Lord, please forgive me,"
Mhm.
and yeah, but
And those are, like, real thoughts that I think sometimes in the Christian, like, realm or, like, society,
mhm,
we don't talk about them.
yeah,
Or I'm so for youth ministry and like youth groups because I do feel like it provides spaces for young people, just
yeah,
young people to hear, yes, about Jesus, and yes, like you were learning, but then also to hear like, hey, if you're walking through something like this,
mhm,
because I think the reality is, Amanda, that like temptation is there regardless.
yeah,
Like just because you're a Christian, it doesn't mean that like, oh,
yeah.
we're not going to do these things.
Yeah, because 'cause you're not excluded, and at the like, you are we're flesh,
Mhm.
and we are living in the world.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean we have to be a part of it, but we also have temptations, and whether that can be look different for each person.
Yeah.
And I think your walk with faith, like, like you said, like, we're not excluded from
No.
anything.
We're not.
That's not what like Christianity is about.
Mhm.
And I know we can probably get a little deeper into,
Yeah.
those conversations, but yeah, like it's real stuff that you go through um and I think in that time too, like I was like I'm a new Christian, like I'm in starting to get involved in the dancing ministry and
Mm.
this is where I'm at right now. Like what is that going to look like,
Yeah.
you
Okay,
know?
so then you found out at urgent care,
Yeah.
and then what happened from there?
So from there, they're like based off your symptoms, you may be having a tubal pregnancy.
Mm.
You need to go to the emergency room right away. And we get in the car and I'm just crying. And my mom's like, why didn't you tell me, that, I'm like, I didn't know. And she's like, We didn't like, we could have talked more about this." And that's pretty much all she said.
Mhm.
She didn't like yell at me or anything crazy. And we get to the emergency room and I call my husband. Well, he was my boyfriend at the time,
Yeah.
and it was late and he's like, "What?" Like And I'm like, "Okay, like, I just wanna let you know I have to go," type of thing, and
Yeah.
went back, did the ultrasound, and I remember, like, seeing, and hearing the heartbeat and everything was
Mm,
fine, and in that moment, like, hearing the heartbeat, it was like, oh my like, it was, like, a beautiful thing,
mhm.
but again, I was just so young, but I am thankful, like, my mom was there,
Yeah.
and,
Did you feel, like, overwhelmed at all? Like,
um
but because 'cause I'm assuming there was different emotions, like you said. Yes, like, "Oh my gosh, a baby," but then also like, "Oh my gosh, I'm scared."
Yes. Yeah, I was very scared, even like after that, obviously having to give that news to the rest of, our family and my dad and going to school. Like
Mm,
I didn't go to school, I think for like a week at least,
mhm,
maybe two. I know for sure a week. And just because obviously it started, getting out there and I was just very, I felt like ashamed.
mm,
Peers. I mean, there was rumors, a lot of talk and it was just all of that like going through as a young teenager, where there's already enough of that.
yeah.
Like that people go through,
Not just that, but you already felt the shame of it,
Yeah.
and so it's like people were just adding to that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's basically what it was.
So, did abortion ever cross your mind?
So it didn't cross my mind, but there was like a family meeting. And, someone had brought that up in a conversation and it was like, no, my mom and my grandmother and, it was like, no, like that's not anything we believe in.
Mhm,
And that was it. It wasn't like a deep conversation, but it was brought up at a family meeting and um, you know, it's like, no,
no.
we're not doing that. And, my mom's like, this is, what's going to happen. Like, we're going to be here to support you. Obviously I still wanted to finish school,
Mhm,
all of those things. My husband at the time, like he, was wanting to go to the military
mm,
and so that kind of, he kind of had to rethink those things just because he didn't want to be he wanted to be involved and not
yeah,
want to be a part be, away
away.
from Aaliyah and stuff. And it's funny because like I know like how what I was feeling and going through and I have asked him too before like what did you feel? As like I feel like young teen moms, like we get this label or there's other things, but also like as a young father, like how are you feeling?
Mhm,
And his thing was like just basically I had to provide. Like that's where his mind went
mm.
instantly.
Which I think is really neat because God created men to provide.
Yeah.
Like, it is literally instilled in men, like, how they were crafted by the Lord to be the providers. So I think it's really cool that even at his young age, during that time, it's like,
Hmm.
I need to provide, and
Yeah.
like, and how God was already had already prepared him for something like that. And so then you guys had that conversation with your family. Did you guys get married? Because I know you guys, did you guys get married right away, or did you guys wait, or like what was that about?
Yeah, so we waited. So when I turned 18 is when I got married. So
Okay.
basically, yeah, we didn't live together or anything. I was still at home, still in school. He had his own place. He did ask, my mom like for me to move in and obviously like we were so young and
Yeah.
we just, were having a child and we talked about it and it was like, no, like let's try like, still biblically, like let's like yes, this happened,
Right.
but
We can
we
still
don't
do the right
yeah, we
thing.
could still do the right thing, and we both were in agreement with that,
Yeah.
and we stayed focused, school and, graduating and everything, and
So you got to
so
graduate high
yes,
school?
I did get to graduate actually a year early too.
Wow.
So, yeah, I kinda just wanna, like, go back a little bit. I remember, there was some loved ones and even peers that, like, were like, "Oh, she's a statistic," "She's not gonna graduate." And it's funny because, like, now that I think about it, it's like that never crossed my mind, if any like, not finishing school, if anything,
Mhm,
like, I feel like getting pregnant and having Aaliyah, like, pushed me, like, even
mhm,
more. And so even, like, I remember meeting with my counselor in high school and, thankfully, like, I was already kind of, like, ahead in classes.
mhm,
So it was like, "Yeah, you'll be able to graduate early." And at one moment, I was like, "Oh, well, what if I wanna, like, stay my last, like, the 4th year, so, because my friends, right?
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. And I remember him saying, like, well, now you have like a little one that you have to, that is your future. And I think the best thing would be is just to go ahead and graduate early because you have someone you have to care for and everything else. Like, shouldn't matter now.
Mhm.
And I'm just thankful for that because I'm like, that was the right choice. And I graduated early. I mean, I had no issues. Obviously, school was like it was hard, right? You
Yeah.
having a little one, my husband, I remember like getting up super early, having to drop her off to get to school. And he was like, watching her because he graduated by that time, right?
Right.
And then would go to work all the way to like 11:30 p.m., sleep a few hours, get up in the morning to watch her. Like it was tough, for both of
Yeah.
us. But, it's we did have some good support system
And I think
too.
what I love that you shared right now, and it's at the beginning of it, was that like everything's redeemable. So like just because we make a wrong choice or
Yeah.
we make a sinful choice, it doesn't mean that we have to continue to make these kind of decisions. And I love that you had the support to for somebody to speak into your life, your family, your mom, to be able to say like, "Hey, like we can still do things the godly way.
Yep.
Like just because you didn't do this part doesn't mean you can't do the rest of your life." And I
Yep.
think sometimes that's where the enemy comes in. It's like, "Oh, you made the mistake, you got pregnant, you're the statistic."
Yeah.
Like you're not going to graduate. You're now going to continue to make sinful decisions. You're going to continue. And again, it's not that you're hearing that, but that's the narrative that I think
Right.
the enemy wants to write.
Right.
So then you walk in it. But then you graduated and then
Yeah. So graduated. Yeah. And so graduated, obviously I started college young. So yes, I was 18 when I got married. My husband and I had already my husband, I keep saying my husband because we're married now, but my
the
boyfriend at the
boyfriend,
time.
yeah, the boyfriend at the time.
We had talked about it. And he had asked, my parents and he asked my mom and so that was something that we wanted to do and I'm just like thankful for that because we were so young but he also knew that that was also important to me.
Mm,
And we were, just being around my family was helpful for him to also be able to like educate
mhm.
him,
Yeah.
and so we both wanted that. And yeah, we got married young, 18 and he was 20 at that time. And you said something like about how God can redeem things.
Mhm.
I do want to say too, by the time I was 19, so that's when I got pregnant with my other daughter.
Okay.
But, we were able to like we were married. We
Mhm.
were able to talk about and plan, getting pregnant
Mm,
and just the way we experienced everything was a lot different
mhm.
than what we experienced with Aaliyah. And we
Yeah.
were still so young, but I feel like God allowed us to also experience that and I'm
Mhm.
thankful for that
Yeah.
because um it was hard, being a young, being young and pregnant and then a teen mom and it was challenging.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
And then God redeemed it. You guys chose to do things
Yeah.
differently the second time around.
Yeah.
And so now you guys have two. You had two little girls.
Yes.
And so did you said you mentioned you went to college. So you went to college
Went to
and
college. Yeah, so basically went to college, finished I think I finished my associates at least by maybe by 20. My husband had, his career. Um I got my bachelor's, my master's. I kept on going.
yeah.
And even though during that time like we did face challenges,
Mhm.
we were just young parents
Mhm.
and then young and then married,
Yeah.
you
And
know.
marriage I think just brings a whole set of like not hard things, but it's like I always think that God uses marriage. One, it's to glorify him, but
Yes.
to refine us and to
Yeah.
see how selfish we really are. I
Yeah.
don't know, if I could be honest, I'm like, "Man, I have to give up some things," you know?
Yeah.
But it's also beautiful.
It is. No, and it is, and also just like I I love God so much, even at that time too.
Mhm.
And, just seeking his word and, reading the Bible or trying to, okay, if there's something we're going through,
Yeah.
how can I find a devotion like about that? And during that time, who can we lean on? And I feel like throughout the time, like as being a teen mom and then going into marriage young and everything, I've always talked to God,
Mm,
you know, um, that's I just feel I do kind of want to go back to like he always takes me to this verse. So Joshua 1:9, be strong
mhm,
and courageous. So when I was like 13, he gave me this verse and
mhm.
this word in my dream. And so I'll like that till this day, like anytime I'm facing anything that's challenging,
Mhm.
he's like, remember, be strong and courageous, be strong and courageous. So even at that young age, 15, 16, and then, 17,
Yeah,
18, getting married and all of that, anytime I would face anything, being so
you
young,
leaned on
I
him.
leaned on him and remembered that.
Yeah. And I think I've only been able to know you for the past 3 years, so and I've been able to see just how intentional. I think that's what I love about you. You're really intentional as a mom. I remember going to Starbucks and you're like, okay, the girls want this and the girls want that, you know? And, but not just that, I know your girls play softball.
Yeah.
Both you and your husband, I don't know him as well as you, but both you and your husband are so involved.
Yep.
And you guys have, in my eyes, have sacrificed a lot, but because you wanted to. It's
Yeah.
not something that's like, dang it, we have to. It's like, you literally have pure joy when you talk about like we're going to the games and my girls did this and so I think on my end I think it's beautiful to see. I know it was hard work at the beginning.
Yeah.
You had one of them young, both young actually, but
Yeah.
one of them younger, and then married young. But then I feel like you and your husband have done a lot of hard work at the very early stages.
Yeah.
And now you're reaping like that hard work.
Yeah.
And your daughter's playing softball. Your oldest just graduated too.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so she's playing softball. And you're still a softball mom with your
I
youngest.
am.
But can you talk a little bit about parenting? Like, how did you handle parenting as a young mom? And how did you incorporate your faith? And so just kind of talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so when I, had Aaliyah, she was, they're both like the best accomplishments that, we've had. And my husband and I always talk about that. But having her young, it was, when my husband would be at work, it was always like her and I together,
Mm,
and for 4 years too, because, Annie didn't come until 4 years later. And just being with her every moment, being able to protect her and teach her at a young age, pray. And, I also had, family members, my grandmother, like we'd go over and just, you know, I taught her those ways.
mhm.
And, um, it was, it was just a beautiful thing. It was challenging. Obviously, like you worry, right? Like you can't leave your children with anyone, babysitting. Like I'm thankful because we didn't have to like do that because I was
Yeah.
there, we had family. Um and, just having that relationship, and as the time went on, even, when Annie came, it was the same thing. We
Mhm.
were always involved and we always said, like, we're going to do whatever we have to do, for them and to provide for our girls. And as they got older, the things that you worry about when they're young, like being in school, so young and, first day of kindergarten or first grade,
Mhm.
how are they doing? Are they meeting, having friends? But as they get older, there's a lot of other things that start to come
Yeah,
that
you're
you
you're ahead of me, like, how many years? Elijah's 10, so, like, 8 years.
yeah.
Because I just dropped off my last baby at kinder, and I'm worried about did he get in his line by himself, and does he have friends? And so now you're on
Yeah.
the other side, so what are some of
Yeah.
the other things that I have to look forward to about worrying?
Yeah, so, it's just like, okay, now as they get into that, middle school, high school, it's like, okay, how are, other peers going to be? There's going to be temptation.
Mhm.
What's talked about in school, you there's a lot of different things, and especially like with Aaliyah, because I was, like, young in there, and I was like, I want the best for her. Like, I
Mhm.
don't want her to go through what we had to go through,
Mhm.
being young, and, just teaching her and reminding her, there's gonna be temptation of things, please talk to us. We have an open door policy in our household, and what that means is, like, I don't care what if you're feeling a certain type of way, if there's something you're interested in, like, please come and talk to me,
Mhm.
please come and talk to dad. Because as we were growing up, like, we didn't really have that.
Mm.
And so when we had the girls, that was something like, what can we do different than how we were brought up?
Mhm.
Not that we were brought up in a bad way or anything, but
Yeah.
it's just like I wanna have that communication.
Yeah.
I want them to know that we are here. And Aaliyah, please come and talk to us if there's anything that you're facing, challenges. Also the people that you surround yourself with, have good community, be a good friend. You don't have to be a mean girl.
Yep.
You know who God is. He's with you. And, whenever you feel that you're alone or you don't want to come to me, I always tell them, you can go to God, because
Mhm.
when I'm not here, if one day I'm not here, like, I want the ways that we have taught you, you know, for you to know what to do.
Yeah.
And I think it's normal for us to, like, worry, but then I have to remember, like, fear is not of God
Yeah.
either. And so I have to be like, Lord, okay, how I'm feeling right
Yeah.
now, I feel like I'm a little bit more, Ali always says like I may be a little bit more strict than my husband, but it's not it's not that I want to be strict. It's
Yeah.
just because what I went through as being and a young teen, a girl,
Yeah.
and then a young woman, I feel like it's a little bit more difficult for
Did you
us.
have any fears when um your daughters turned like the age that you were when you were already with your husband or boyfriend at the time? And then like the age that you got pregnant, was there any fears that kind of came up for you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, yes. When she was 15 and then going to be 16, and I was like, Lord, like, please just be with her,
Yeah.
lead her and guide her where
Mhm.
she makes the right choices and where she comes and talks to me, if anything, too.
Mhm.
And, then I was thankful. I literally thanked, I thank him all the time, but last year, when she turned 17, I was like, "Oh, thank you, Lord." Like, she didn't, come out, she didn't get pregnant, or she's at a different state, like, in her life than what I was at that age,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And I'm just so proud,
Yeah.
she's, just so she's loving, she's smart. Um, her smile just like lights up, a
Mhm.
room, and she loves God too,
Yeah.
and I remember, yeah, like I was worried, but I also thanked him.
Yeah. Yeah. And so with that, let's talk a little bit about like your faith journey. So yes, you met, so to say you met Jesus when you were 13 or around that time.
Hmm.
And then obviously your faith has grown over the years.
Yes.
And so as you're navigating young mom, being a young wife, and then two girls, and then college, bachelor's, master's, all of that. I know that you mentioned that you've always loved God, but has your relationship always been where it's at now with God?
No. So I've always known him, and it's where I am now today. I am just so thankful because this is what my heart has always desired.
Mm.
At a young age, I always desired to have a close relationship with him.
Mhm.
Be involved, whatever that may look like, have good community and everything. And I think that just because I, would face different trials, throughout my years,
Mhm.
young years as
Yeah.
well, um, it's hard.
Mhm.
It can be hard, keeping your faith and walking, in the path that, God wants you to and or desires you to as well, and biblically as well.
Yeah.
Um And I wanna say something too because I know, we talked, well, we earlier, we were
Yeah.
talking about how we've been friends, for 3 years.
Mhm.
I think over the last, like 5 years, I'll say, like, I just really became intimate with the Lord, but also having people like you in my life
Mhm.
has been, very helpful. Um, as you get older, you realize, like, you
Mhm.
need to have a good community
Yeah.
and, faith-based, people in your life,
Yeah.
and I have that,
So let's break it down a little bit.
yeah.
So the past 5 years, what has shifted, or what can you like pinpoint that shifted from like the previous years? Because you loved God, you were going to church even prior to that, but like
Mhm,
the past 5 years, you've grown deeper in your relationship with the Lord, and I'll speak a little bit on what I feel that that could be, but then I'll let you kind of share as well. I feel like when we start to go deeper with Jesus, it's because we're being more intentional with our time,
mhm,
and we start to realize that, like you mentioned earlier, like we start to realize a lot of different things, like who's my circle, are they speaking into me, or are they actually leading me in a different direction? um what do I really want my walk with the Lord to look like? Am I coasting with God, or am I not? And those are questions that I ask myself. Even like, I would say, I know this is crazy because I like structure, but like on a yearly basis, Brandy's like, okay, have you grown with God, or are you the same, or did you go backwards? Like, is my community still healthy for me,
mhm.
or is it not? And I think as Christians, we always want to say like, yes, my community is healthy, but it's like, is it really healthy?
Yeah.
And so those are my practicals. What were your some practical things for you, like these past 5 years?
Yeah, so basically just being more intentional.
Okay.
So, not just going to church and then, like, that's it, and then the rest of the week you're just going about your busy life,
Yeah.
work and everything. Being intentional means, you know, reading your Bible, and if you don't know where to start, you know, look up, like, what do you want to read? Like plans. There's plans in the Bible. That's kind of
Hmm.
how I started. Just
Yeah.
kind of go through plans, and maybe there's something that, you want to pray about or something you're struggling with.
Hmm.
And also, you know, just trying to get involved. What can you do as a person, not for, like, for yourself, but also for others,
Hmm.
you know,
Good.
and I just feel like I've always had, like, a heart and cared for others.
Hmm.
And I think that's why I used to, like, care so much what people thought of me.
Mm, yeah.
But it's just because I do love people, and so just getting intentional,
Yeah.
with the word, and also involved in, like, over the past year, like, I have got involved with Momco,
Hmm.
and that
Started
has
serving at the
been,
church.
yes, yes, serving at the church, and that has been really good, Momco, because you are meeting different moms from
Hmm.
different ages. Some may have, newborns, toddlers, older children. They may be younger, may have a story like me, but you get to bond with them,
Hmm.
and but at the same time talk about Jesus, and in a healthy way. Like, we're going through these struggles,
Hmm.
but how are we walking with Jesus during these
Hmm.
struggles
Yeah.
as a mom?
Yeah, and I think for me, what's been cool is the past 3 years is to see that. And I think one thing that I like about you is that you just ask. So I remember you're like, "Hey, we should do like a Bible study," or you asked me, and I was like, "I should be asking her. Like, I'm a pastor at a church. I'm not even asking her." But I think that the intentionality component that you're saying, it's like sometimes you have to put yourself out there. Like, yes, we can pray to God and we can be like, God, we want to be
Mhm.
closer. And yes, He's going to hear that.
Yes.
But then we have to partner with Him. And I don't know who, I think this is a quote maybe, but it's like if you keep doing the same thing over and over, it's like insanity. It's like you have to change something
Yeah.
for things to change.
No, yeah, absolutely, because you can get stuck in your ways, in that routine, and and I think at some point too, that I want to say, like, I was always, yes, I had a relationship with God, but I was also busy,
Mm-hmm.
and it's okay to be busy, but I also had to pull away and kind of balance like my time with him.
Mhm.
How am I going to, glorify him? Because if I say that my desire is to, have a relationship with him and be involved and do more things, then what do I have to change?
Mhm.
In my life or just in myself, like I sit back too, okay, how could I have been better today?
Mhm.
And being a parent, you have to, a wife, a sister, and a mom, like all those things, like I feel like we juggle a lot and sometimes we can get discouraged.
Yeah.
And it's important, like you have to have, for me at least, have God. Like I have to have him. I have to have a daily pursuit with him.
Yeah.
I just have to, because I have to leave everything in his hands. And like over the last year he gave me the word joy, and I'm like,
Mhm.
"Okay, am I gonna, like, just walk around and just be, like, this joyful person? Like, what does this mean, Lord?"
Yeah.
And it's like, "No." And every single thing that you do, like, you have to have joy in it.
Mhm.
Like, if my daughter's like, "Hey, I don't feel good. Can you come pick me up at school?" Or whatever the case may be. It's like, sometimes like, "Oh, I have to stop what I'm doing."
Doing
And now,
mhm.
and it's like, no, like be joyful because you have been blessed with two beautiful daughters, and do that, because one day, as they get older, like you're not going to do that.
Yeah. Like, you're starting a new season where your daughter's going off to college,
Yeah.
and it's like she won't be home, but but it's like you have to find joy in that, like, "Okay, Lord, like, she's getting her wings," and which I love that you told me, like, "I'm so excited for her." Like, your
Yeah.
answer wasn't, "I'm sad," your answer was, "I'm so excited for her."
Yeah.
But with that, you touched on busyness. And I read this book once called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And he talked about basically that Satan uses, like, if he can't use anything else, he'll use busyness to basically distract you from, like,
Mhm.
from one, spending time with God, but then also from hearing what God wants you to do for him, because we think the things that we're doing are more important. And we won't view it like that at the moment. But I think it takes a lot of self awareness to be able to say, okay, like, I have a desire to please you, Lord, but what am I doing? And I think over the past year, there's been some transitions and things like that in your life,
Yeah.
but it's been because you chose to reanalyze and say, okay, Lord, like, I need more of you. So what do I need to do um, to do that? And I think sometimes um, I think about, like, even my life, and I'm like, man, I need to remove that, God. And God's like, "Yeah, like, that's not a bad thing, but it's also something that's, like, taking up your time
Mhm.
that I never asked you to do."
Yeah.
And so do you wanna share a little bit about that journey, just like the past year?
Yeah, so the past year definitely. So I would say, yeah, for the past year is like when really like God has just, yes, like I started becoming intentional 5 years ago, and
Mhm,
also, kind of like went through little things, but the past year has been, I want to say it's been like my best year of growth
mhm,
and relationship with the Lord, just because um yeah, I mean so much has changed. I did have uh two like full-time, jobs.
mhm,
Um, a contracting one, and I had been doing that, yeah, like almost like 4 years, I think.
mhm.
And I knew that it was going to be time to be done. And I had been talking to God about it and
Yeah.
asking him, and just the way I was feeling,
Mhm.
had other, like medical things and stuff going on, and he was like it's time, and I don't know if you're gonna like this, like financially.
Right, right.
But like this is what's gonna happen. It's like, okay, like I'm prepared for this. And
Mhm,
so that changed, towards um little bit like mid last year into the
mhm,
year a little bit. And so then that happened. There's even been changes like with our health,
mhm.
losing weight.
Yeah, you've
Uh
lost a lot of weight,
yeah,
and
like
I'm like,
32 pounds.
I remember, I think it was that Momco night, and then I was like, "Who's that girl over there? Like, you look so tiny." You know? You look really good.
Thank you. And just like, but doing like going through all that, and even like in my household, my husband had the same, changes.
Mhm,
My girls, my youngest, she had went through,
mhm,
some to basically she was going to be out of softball for a while.
Mhm. Which is a big
And
deal for your
which is a big
family.
deal, and
Yes.
also, at the level of play,
Mhm.
that, she participates in and everything, that was really tough. But in the midst of it all, like, God was with us, and I prayed about it. And also, it's not like I was like, "Okay, I'm not gonna do this or that, and this is why I wanna lose weight." Like, no, I wanted to do it to renew. It's
Mhm.
more of a renewing of my body,
Mhm.
my mind,
Did you catch what God was doing though? Like, I think it's like First Thessalonians 5:23, I think. But it says like that we are to perfect our spirit, soul, and body until Jesus comes back. And so like we're triune beings, your spirit, your soul, and your body. Your spirit's already alive. Your soul is your will, your mind, and your emotions, and then your body. So like you literally changed two out of the three because one of them doesn't need to change anymore. You changed your physical,
yeah,
which is you lost weight. But then at the same time, you change your soul component, your will, your mind, and your emotions to be aligned more with the Lord. And it's like now they're all aligned
yeah,
and you're seeing the fruit
I
of
am.
spiritual growth.
Yes, absolutely. And also, and it kind of just like goes back to that God can renew and restore everything. It's a new beginning.
Mhm.
And I just like my perspective on life and everything like has changed. But it's
Mm.
not like to glorify because of me, because I did it, because you cannot do anything alone
Mhm.
unless you have God on your side. He
Yeah.
is going to help you get through it. And also having good community.
Mhm.
And that's just so important to me, like to have, a good community,
Yeah.
good resources, being involved, with Mom Code, that actually really helped me a lot. And even you,
Mhm.
like our friendship and our
Mm.
meetups and everything, it was like I need this. Like I love
Mm.
this and it's
Mhm.
of God.
Mhm.
It really is of God, like a healthy relationship, whether that's, marital or, friendship. It's it should be healthy and it's
Yeah.
good for your soul, it's good for you, and it's what you feed off of,
Mhm.
and if you're around just like the opposite, which that, it's everyone's own perspective on how they
Yeah.
see things, but for me personally, like just based off everything that I've gone through in my life, like I need this and this is what my desires
Well,
are.
biblically, the word says like who you are around could corrupt you.
Absolutely.
So it's like again, and then maybe that's the theme of our conversation. It's like intentionality. It's
Mhm.
like stewardship. It's you have to be intentional.
Yeah.
And we don't hang out all the time either.
No.
So like we just had this conversation. It's
Yeah.
like it's not like we're like, "Hey, every week," because you have things going on, I have things going on. But it's the fact that a healthy friendship, in my opinion, is a friendship. One, iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
So it's like when we're with each other, I always get something from you and I always get encouraged. And I think vice versa. Hopefully you
Yes.
get encouraged. But then too, there's been moments where I've been able to pray for you, like in church and even here in my home.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a healthy relationship, whether we're talking about marriage, friendships, like you have to have these components.
Yeah.
And you talk about Momco a lot, but you just basically started serving at your local church.
Yeah.
That's what you started doing.
Yeah.
You started getting plugged in, and in your gifts because you're very administrative too.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes when we think about church and if we're going to church, we're like, well, there's not a place for me to serve. No, there is. Like God created you and me specifically a certain way,
Yeah.
and you're thriving. Like
Yeah.
you're literally thriving. And when you talk about Momco, you get excited. And so I'm just excited for you, Amanda. I don't remember what church service it was, but I remember you went up to worship to the front, and then I went over and the Lord's like, go pray for her. And I went to pray for you, but I just really felt like the Lord was just like this is it. Like this is the year that she's going to walk in everything that I have for her,
Yeah.
not just as a mom, not just as a wife, but like for her. Like
Yeah.
you're going to discover that there's so much more that God has and you're going to walk in it. And you're going to walk in it really confidently, knowing that God is opening doors for you. So I'm just
Yeah. Thank
excited
you.
and I'm grateful for our friendship.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I remember when we first started doing the Bible studies together, and there's one time where it was just you and I in your backyard in the
Yep.
grass.
Yeah.
And I think we had other girls involved, but for whatever reason, like they couldn't make it. And just like looking back, it's like remember we had that Bible study, it was just you and I, but
Mhm.
like that's all I needed
Yeah.
at the time, and I'm like just so thankful because, I was able to have you and
Yeah.
have that, moment and really, um you have also, helped me grow. And I'm
Mhm.
thankful for that because it was like, okay, I remember telling you like I've always wanted to do this, or I
Mhm.
even said before like when I was younger, like, I used to desire, like, to sing, but I don't have the voice for that.
Yeah. I don't either.
I've always, like, loved, like, just I think it's
I shower
because
sing.
yeah, same. I think it's because, like, when I get into worship, like, that's one thing that just, like, I love hearing the voice their music, their voice,
Mhm.
but, we have other talents, and I'm thankful because God has allowed me to, not only, like, use that into, like,
Mhm.
my workforce, but also, like, for the church,
Mhm.
and just getting plugged in, and I want more, and I'm super excited.
I love the word more. Just
Yeah.
kidding.
Just walking with him and
Yeah.
having a good community and, through it all, just having joy no matter what, because I
Yeah.
know I'm going to go through things. And I'm so thankful that like where I am today in my life and my walk with him versus like where I came. And I know that, the, you know, people in the world may have thought different.
Mhm.
And I just give all the honor and glory to him because he's brought um, me and not only myself, but my husband and I both from being young teen parents to
Mhm.
where we are today. And like he deserves all the honor and glory. And we couldn't have done it without him.
Amen.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being on this pod today. I'm excited for you, and I'm excited that you want more and that the
Yeah.
Lord is going to continue to open doors for you. And you're going to start to see, I think, even some of those deep rooted desires that you've only expressed to Him, they're going to start to come to fruition.
Yeah.
So,
No, thank you. And I did want to say, for any, young
yes.
teen moms or just young parents, um, single, whatever the case may be, that just lean on him.
Hmm.
If you don't know where to start, you can start with plans,
Yeah.
Bible plans, and just don't give up and
Yeah.
just find that healthy community
Time is
because,
redeemable.
yes, it
God can
definitely
redeem
is
time.
redeem and
And
restore.
go to Momco.
Yes.
Go to Momco.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
Momco.
yeah. Mm,
I'll also be,
yep, you will.
yeah, August, I'll be hosting or having, like meetups, coffee meetups, and devotionals, small
Yep.
devotionals. So,
And Momco is a national organization.
yeah,
So it's not just in Arizona where we live, but it is around the whole United States. So you can find a Momco pretty much anywhere right now.
yeah,
But if you happen to know us here, where we live, Momco will be kicking off here in, is it August?
August. Yep.
In August. And so join Momco.
Yes.
And yeah, so thank you.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you.